please.
Broussalogne. Here. Dollinger. Here. Fritz. Mayor. Moran. Parker. Here. Rice. Winfrey. Here. Tumanella. You have a quorum. We also have Mr. Eustace.
Mr. Mayor, welcome back. Would you like to lead us in the pledge while you're standing? Sure. All right. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda is the meeting minutes from August 7th.
Motion.
All in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we get to old business, I'd like to move one item of new business to the top, the City of Joliet presentation regarding the downtown sanitary and storm sewer project. I know Allison's here, she's going to give us a presentation. And the reason I'd like to move it up is we may want to hear some of the things with the project and that could impact ours, so I'd like to have it before we turn it over to our courthouse routine. Hope everyone's okay with that. With that, Allison, thank you.
Thank you everyone for accommodating the change in schedule. I'm just here to provide a quick update on the storm sewer project. I was here a few months ago right before construction began to just go over the project. And probably to date, you haven't really noticed it because we've been contained down south of Washington on the Des Plaines and Lafayette streets. Really having a lot of issues with the amount of rock that they are encountering, and Dave can chime in. I mean, we're breaking almost 15 feet of rock. It's really hard bedrock. So most days they get in about 8 feet. So there's been some schedule concerns. We need to get a little further ahead so that we can make sure that our pipe is installed in time so that you can have the gas and electric service installed for the courthouse. So we talked to the contractor, Deconstruction. They basically proposed to start working 24/7, and that they would also jump ahead. Right now they're kind of at the corner where Lafayette turns into Joliet Street. They're proposing to jump to the intersection of Joliet and Washington and then start heading east. And so that way we can get our pipe in the ground, and then Nightcore and then ComEd can come in and do their work. So the implication of this is that we're going to have to close Washington Street between Ottawa and Joliet. We're working on getting a detour plan prepared and approved. Assuming that happens and we get press releases out, that this would begin September 10th.
September 10th.
Yeah.
So one of the concerns we had, obviously, in the committee was the fact that we were expecting, and I know you were too, until you ran into issues, to be around that same part where we could just kind of tie in and do the work collectively. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip over a piece, start in a new location, and then you'll jump back to finish that once our lines are laid with yours.
Yeah.
So that should keep the courthouse project right on schedule with no delays as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then kind of add a benefit too is we aren't going to be repaving the road twice. The work will kind of be happening in conjunction with one another, so that will just restore the roadway then once.
Well, it makes good sense for the taxpayers as well.
Yes, and so kind of the bigger picture schedule is, we cannot do work within the IDOT right away over the winter time, so we would be working then on kind of over the winter, Washington just south of the existing courthouse, and then cutting through the courthouse parking lot over the winter to basically by next spring be at back on Jefferson Street.
So you'll work 24/7 in the new location, in that new segment. Now, how long do you expect that detour will be in place?
We're thinking between 45 and 60 days.
Okay.
Yes.
So before the winter hits, we should have that completed.
Yes, we should have that completed. And then we move to the next part. And like I said, the rock is. I mean, we knew there'd be rock, but we just didn't know the strength of it. It's just been.
Oh yeah.
It's
yeah.
Got a tough rock to go in.
Very tough rock. So.
Never seen anything like it.
We've seen it in the pit.
Yeah. It's tough.
This could be Joliet to Ottawa.
That's Joliet to Ottawa. Yeah, so we'll be issuing press releases like I said once we get the detour reviewed and approved with our Public Works Department. So.
Well, this is very exciting here because the last report I got a week and a half ago was unless we were trying to still figure this out. So I'm very excited that,
No,
that you're
yeah.
able to put this together.
We've been working with Dave and, Gilbane to make sure that we're, accommodating all the schedules so that, we understand, you guys need heat and power by a certain time.
Well, that's excellent news. So, does anybody have any questions? Allison, thank you so much for being here and updating.
Okay.
If I may, in small talk before this meeting, I learned that Miss Allison here is going to be scaling Mount Kilimanjaro next week with her father. So that's quite a trip and an experience. Yeah, that's a big rock. So we wish you well, Allison. We wish you well and Godspeed.
Yeah.
That's going to be
I hope I
awesome.
make it to the top, so.
You'll make it to this.
All the best.
Okay,
Safe
thank
travels.
you.
Safe travels. Wow. How do we top that? All right. No. I did the Great Wall of China. I thought I was going to die. There's no way I'm going up there. No. Unless they got a helicopter to bring me up so I could just plant the flag and come down. Update from the courthouse delivery team, White, Gilbane, and Farnsworth.
How many mountains have you climbed, Jake?
None.
None.
He climbs them out every day. Is that what they call work?
Good morning.
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 Pinch hitting for Dave today. He's taking a long Labor Day, so well-deserved, so hopefully I can get you guys up to speed with everything on the courthouse and our progress here to date. We're still maintaining a pretty good safety record, I would say, a very good safety record. We've gone 238 days without a lost time or recordable. We're this morning probably up a little bit in our manpower. We're about 90 to 100 tradesmen on site now. With the masons coming on site. So we're starting to ramp up and really hitting the safety with these guys and with everybody to stress how important that is. So we'll continue to monitor that. Schedule, we are still on track for our 9/15/2020 date of substantial completion. That one remains unchanged, and right now the project is on schedule. Work that is proceeding now, some of the highlights, we've got the excavation. They're continuing, as Roy's and Eric continues to backfill around the building. Site utility work has started. We're beginning water main, sanitary line installation, south and west sides. Martin Cement is finally getting their last forms off of that main elevator core. That was a pretty significant milestone in our project schedule. So now that is basically behind us. They've got a little bit left, and then they continue to pour out their third floor slab and their fourth floor slab on deck. So that is proceeding along per schedule. Scheduling as far as the steel is following with the decking, floor 6 and 7. The west tower started to set columns on the east for 8 and 9. So steel erection is proceeding very well. We're proceeding on schedule. The mason has started CMU in the basement. I don't know if anybody's been down there to see that, but they've started putting up the block walls for the holding cells in the basement. Which is also a significant milestone date to get the mason out here mobilized and get that work in process. Layout's is proceeding. MS Carpita on the first floor, second floor interior wall layout. So that is also key to getting these other trades going inside the building. CJ Erickson, our plumber, is working in the basement with their rough in to the holding cells. Block Electric is continuing to install their piping. Excel has placed a switch here in the basement, and that was also kind of a milestone to get that gear here, get it inside the basement, and put in its location. So that was also a big item that we got done in August. FE Moran has got their chill water riser piping, starting to install their supports as far as the mechanical work is concerned. They placed their air handler in the basement. It's good to get all this stuff in the basement in the mechanical room. So that is proceeding well. The mock-up has started. That is right there in the parking lot. That's to our trailer, if anybody wants to come by and see that. The glass is up.
The stone's up.
Yeah, the glass is there. The stone is also being installed. They are showing several different conditions with that mock-up wall conditions there with the stone and the glass. So if anybody wants to come by and see that, they're working out a few of the details here this week, but that is proceeding along pretty well as well. Martin is going to proceed now between now and the October 2nd meeting. They'll proceed to continue pouring their floors, decks 5, 6, 7, loading dock slabs will be poured. And then by the end of September, Lejeune and our steel erector, Imperial will be putting up the steel for the penthouse. So that is also going to be a milestone, and we look forward to steel completion there. The exterior carpenter has got his framing and sheeting going. That's also a milestone to get the building enclosed. That is the material. Then the limestone will go on top of that or on the exterior part of the building once all of that work is complete. Hydromobile scaffolding, I think, will be starting this month yet from the mason, from All Masonry. And glazing layouts has started, and then glass will be delivered at the end of October for the installation, start of the glazing. Budget, we're still on budget. And White and Farnsworth continue their shop drawing reviews. I left the trailer and our guys were going through key shop drawings needed for the hot list for our meeting tomorrow, and they're in constant communication with White. So far, that's been working out pretty well. Farnsworth continues their spreadsheet for the commissioning requirements. That process has started because that's got to be key right now to making sure that that is following along the construction throughout the entire process of the building, and it's not something that just occurs at the end of the project. And they are also working with us on the testing of the mock-up. Any comments on that, but that's about it from my end.
Before I open it up real quick, I'd just like all the committee members to write down this date, Friday, October 19th. Keep it on your calendar. We'll be sending out a notice. There's going to be a topping out ceremony that we have planned for the 19th. So typically a topping out ceremony, for those who are not familiar with it, is when they put that final beam out there. They'll sign the beam, take some pictures, and it's just a ceremonial thing. But I wanted to make sure that the committee was well aware of it in advance. It'll be October 19th, and we'll send out the details when we have it. Mike?
Yeah, two things. When is the escalator coming?
I'm sorry,
The escalator, I thought that was going to be brought in pretty soon to get in. It's already in?
Yeah. One of the runs, I think, is steel for is in. Yeah.
And the reason being, because they had to get that in there, and this is from 2 to 3.
Right.
And this isn't from ground floor lobby to 2, this is from 2 to 3.
Okay.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to logistically get that structure in there before starting the work.
So that's in place.
Yeah.
And then my second question is, has the detail been worked out with the screws and stuff and the mock-up, the glass? Screws, rivets?
All for the vertical fin.
Yeah.
No, we haven't finalized that yet. We're still looking at it. I mean, the point is, we're doing the mock-up to kind of look at a lot of that stuff. So the vertical fins, they've got a couple of screws. Actually, the workmanship wasn't wonderful, so we're kind of talking through that a little bit. But we're looking at another option to do a pop rivet instead of a screw fastener for extra anchoring there. So no decision yet, but something we're looking at. And that's why we do the mock-up, to double check some of those things, make sure that we're getting them the way we want to.
How soon are we going to start installing that?
Oh, that.
The glass is October, end of October.
Yeah, but those probably won't go on for a while.
Okay.
That's the extrusion of the face of the curtain.
Okay.
Good question. Anybody else? Any questions? All right.
Mike Wolf here for Jim Rickert today with Farnsworth Group. So just like Tom said, you know, we're working on the envelope, working with Gilbane and White to finalize that envelope on-site mock-up testing. So this is different than the aesthetic mock-up. This is the one that we're testing for performance. Just retesting a few areas where there were some failures. So that happened in August. Then we're also performing site inspections, observations of the vapor barriers and radiant piping. So this happens before the slab gets poured. We want to make sure we're observing that, because once the slab's poured, you can't see it anymore. And then attending the trade contractor coordination meetings. So that's working with Gilbane to discuss quality control, quality assurance activities and making sure that those are all coordinated. Kind of like I mentioned last month about just coordinating an overall quality control plan and keeping that in front of people. And then we'll be planning in September here a formal commissioning kickoff meeting with all of the trade contractors. So just making sure that everyone, early here in the game sees the commissioning process, gets introduced to it, and we get ownership from all the trades and all the subs with that. Working with Gilbert on that.
Any questions? Jim?
Mike, you mentioned you're retesting areas that failed. What areas failed?
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
No, I would like you to respond, but excellent point.
Yeah, we had some issues with, and you guys can kind of help me out with the details, but I know that there were some issues with the vapor barrier, and so they put a different product on, retested it, I think, on the 14th, middle of August or so.
We did the last night on Friday.
Okay, so retested it, there was still 1 or 2 areas that were non-compliant that still pulled loose. As part of the testing is making sure that the vapor barrier sticks to, adheres, and so if it doesn't, there's a test to try to pull it.
Well, this is one of these things that's extremely important, because once it's up, right? So,
Well, that's
I
the,
mean, I don't know, Tom or Jason, do you want to comment on this?
They're looking
Yeah.
at the sheeting material, Jim, on the exterior. Now they've gone back to the manufacturer. I think they're looking at the next step up on that material to see if that's going to provide what we need on that pull-out.
And at what point are you satisfied? I mean, I worry about, okay, we're on a schedule, this is something that, has to go up, but I certainly want to make 100% sure whatever goes up is not going to fail, even 10 or 15 years down the road. I mean, there's nothing that's guaranteed 15 years down the road. It's supposed to be a lifetime application, correct?
Correct.
So, and it shouldn't fail for the life of the building, technically, right?
technically.
So what makes you feel comfortable? I mean, retested. I'm just curious how you decide. Okay, this is. I guess Jason, this is on you. Also, at what point do you say, okay, this will work for sure? Or to the best of our ability, we're sure we're confident this will work.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, much like we did the mock-up, that's why we're doing all this testing, to make sure that, we test the products, to make sure they're going to perform the way we expect them to before they're installed in the building. So part of the whole design process, Farnsworth put together a pretty rigorous testing program for all different aspects of the building. So, I'd say that this is just, kind of normal course of doing our work of making sure that the products are working. How do we know when they pass the tests effectively is when we'll have the confidence that, that they'll work for the duration of the building. And, I'm not sure we've determined exactly what the ultimate cause of failure on this one was, and I hadn't heard the results yet of Friday's test. But, again, that's why we're doing this testing before it's installed, to make sure that we don't have those concerns once it's installed.
Can I ask one other question? Because ultimately, Mike, this falls on Farnsworth. You're the commissioning agent. So let me ask. So say there's a problem with manufacturing. I mean, do we continue to test as we go along? I mean, how do we know that the manufacturer, the integrity of the product is always the same? I'm just wondering how you can test and say it works, but how do you assure that it's going to be the case throughout the building as the manufacturer? I think manufacturing in different runs or however this kind of product is done, I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious, because there's almost something you have to test along the way, I would think, right? I'm asking you.
Yeah, so maybe just a couple of other details. This is an industry standard, if I remember right, it's an ASTM test on the mock-up. So, these are all kind of following best practice industry standards. So if we see, and we're also following best practice sampling rates. So if we see, the tests fail, or we see, we try to look at the population, the root cause, like Jason said, of the failure. So really what we're looking for to make sure we can move on, with this product is make sure we see an acceptable amount of samples that are
So you
passing.
sample it all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we want to really understand the root cause of the failure and then see that failure be resolved, and in the retest. So we just don't want to, hear, oh, it was an adhesive, we're just going to try a different adhesive. We want to try that adhesive and then retest it to make sure that we are seeing, that, again, another sample that does pass. So that's the first part of the mock-up. But then during construction, the mock-up is just like Jason said, this is working exactly like we want it to. We're identifying things early, we're not identifying what's on the building, and so we want to make sure, then that this gets integrated into the quality control plan. So if there's a special material or there's a special thing that we found, in terms of the installation that was contributing to the non-compliance, then we'd incorporate that in the quality control plan. And then that's really with us working with Gilbane and White, as a coordinated team, to make sure everyone's taking on the responsibility then of installing those systems like the mock-up was. That's the key too, because we know the mock-up then passed and was acceptable.
That was going to be my follow-up question, probably more to you, Tom. And then how do you make sure that's being applied properly? I mean, it would be your oversight to make sure that the
Correct.
contractor was installing it properly.
Yeah, and as Mike's saying, we've looked at all the different components of this mock-up as we've gone through the testing, be it the adhesive, the air vapor barrier, the sheeting. We've looked at all the components the manufacturers have been out. I think we're still reviewing a lot of these details with them. And then once we get this set and arrive at a course of action that's going to pass the test, so once it does in the mock-up, then as we go forward with construction, as Mike says, there are periodic tests during the actual installation of the product, that any changes or the adjustments we had to make in the mock-up will be incorporated by us. It's our responsibility in construction, and then to oversee that to make sure the construction proceeds along those lines.
Can I just add one
And
thing?
I just want to make sure I understand. I've been out of the game for here a few weeks. Are we talking about the vapor barrier on the mock-up itself, or was this actually put on the building?
The mock-up.
The mock-up itself, and this is for the outside walls in order to keep the interlocking, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to just say, for everybody in this room, this is typical. This is very standard procedure. This is not something that, we threw our hands up because, we ran into a problem. Every job site of a building of this magnitude has those mock-ups that goes through the same testing. Because when a product is officially given an ASTM standard, it is done in a laboratory setting, and it's done, I can't remember which state it is, but architectural testing does it. They give you the ASTM standard. That doesn't always apply to every job site and condition that's here. So that's why we do the markup. This is very common practice, so I don't want anyone to come away with for the meeting thinking alarmed, and by any means.
And to that, I would just like to add that there have been, we're talking about one sample failure out of multiple samples derived from the mock-up, and we're talking about, a very thin adhesion of a very thin air and vapor barrier to the substrate, which is, I think everyone can kind of follow that.
Yep.
And so, we got to get it right. No doubt about
And they
that.
will.
And we will. So.
Well, I'd add one last thing. I think, the good news is the whole team is focused on these kind of things with great diligence. And, we've even talked about, if for some reason we think there's a worry that it's just not getting right. I mean, there's other options, other materials. So I think as a team, we're committed to making sure we've got the right materials. So, if the one product we're testing right now, there's any concern with that, then there's other options to go to. And I think nobody's afraid to do that if that's what's necessary.
Good to know. Thank you. Are there any questions for our team? Need it all? All right, thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it. Next up is a discussion on the solar panels on the Will County Courthouse. Come on up.
We've got,
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you. I have some updated figures for you. Thank you to Gilbane for working with us to make sure we have the best information possible. So we're working with real data. taking a look at an all-in 86.5 kilowatt system, give you an idea that's a little bit bigger than originally was proposed, but that was the size of the system used in the estimates provided by Block and Continental. And we're looking at, if we look at everything, and I did do it without infrastructure improvements, but just in full transparency with steel, the cost of the array, all the incentives that we know of right now, and excluding incidentals, which I call your project buffer, the replacement of the inverters that you're probably going to have to do at 50% of their useful life, so 10 years, 8 to 10 years. And then an O&M contract to properly maintain the system. I'm not including those figures in the number I'm about to tell you, but I did include infrastructure and all materials. So that would bring you to about an 18-year payback if we get the distributed generation block program. That particular incentive program is the fallback. I really do think we will qualify for the public facilities block program, which would make our simple payback 15 years. If you add incidentals, those numbers go up to 25 and 21 respectively on your simple payback. Now, if we exclude infrastructure and we talk specifically only about the array, again, I'm not including incidentals on these numbers, which is that project buffer, O&M, you're looking at a 10-year payback. If we get our backup incentive plan and if we get our ideal incentive plan, you're looking at an 8-year payback without infrastructure included.
So, at worst, what do you figure the life to be?
That's a double-edged sword.
We look at 20, 25-year life?
They'll produce for they'll produce for 40 plus years. But the efficiency of the system, how much output they provide, will go down incrementally. Usually you start to see that degradation rate. I personally look at it after about 25 years, and that's why they're warranted usually up into that 25-year point to at least put out 100 to 80%.
Okay, so if we got 25, and then you were figuring originally 7% of the building's electricity, is that still pretty good?
It's a little bit more because the system's slightly larger, but approximately I'd put a 7 to 8% based on the modeling that was done by White.
And then the modeling also consider inflation in the rates?
So the numbers I used are the numbers for which we procured electric earlier this year.
So
It's very low, this is true, but we are actually looking to dig even deeper to see if we can save us even more money on the capacity end of those bills. So, I mean, I could definitely factor in a slight escalation, but because the market's so volatile, it's very difficult to hedge what we think is going to happen in 20 years. Yeah.
Over a 25-year life, we've got to assume it's going to go up.
Yes, and I am including taxes and transmission. This isn't just supply that I include what, the total breakdown, what we're paying fees, taxes, transmission as well to give you a true return.
Well, I thank you for that information, because I think that's really what the committee was looking for. I know the last time we had those numbers that were pulled out, and I think we were kind of taken back, so.
Sure, absolutely.
Does this include the roof and the second floor?
Yes.
Over the Sally Port?
Yes.
Jeff?
Can I ask a question? Jason, didn't we design at least in part of the building for potential solar as far as the structural?
Yeah, it's already in.
All units.
So it's already in. The structural part is already in.
Yeah.
So we already have made that investment.
And we're going to approach this committee with the permission of its members in October with a change order for the electrical conduit, everything short of the array. Well, and it's,
No, we approved the structural steel, but they were going to come back with the electric because they were curious about the oversizing of the piping to get it up there just to make sure for future needs. And we wanted to have those options to be able to put it forward, because if we don't go forward today with the solar array, we would have the ability and the option to go when the technology changes or prices go way up.
right, and that's why we're holding up on the procurement of the array, because we might get better deals,
As long
or
as
we might
we can.
have technological advances, etc.
Yes.
However, we will have our
The infrastructure will be in place.
Right, everything will be there.
The tariffs will decrease, incrementally as time goes on.
I got Jim and then.
Can I make one other comment in relation to solar energy? And that is that, we always look at that as an option. and because we wanted to see how the job is going, budget-wise, of course. And it seems that it's, budget-wise, it's going along pretty well. You know, I think the solar, there's a return, but it also is, as Mike likes to mention, it makes a statement to future investment into the economy. Or, you know, we're progressive that we look at these things. So I'll let Mike go on about that, because that's what he's kind of preached to me and to this committee for some time. You know, this was like we're going into the 21st century, going into, we're already in it, but let's get into it. I think he makes a good point. So it's just not about return on the investment. The return on the investment is part of the return on the investment is the statement it makes, right? So I don't know how quickly, Jason, Tom, you need us to tell you we're going forward or not on this, but you know, I'd like to see us go forward on this. But anyway, that's it for me.
Don?
My question was going to be, the penthouse steel erection was brought up earlier in the schedule. Is there equipment screening and stuff also on the roof? And if so, is any of that unnecessary should we decide to go with the solar panel equipment screening services?
Mechanical equipment screening?
Right, yeah.
A lot of the equipment's inside the penthouse or hidden, so I don't think it won't have any impact either way on this.
Okay.
One of our big concerns too has been the window washing operation and the impact that could have potentially on any kind of solar array, either Sally Port on the south elevation or on the main roof for the tower. And so we've been looking into that very, very closely and working through those details. It's, I think we're pretty close to having those worked out. And you know, one of the other things that I wanted to mention too is that when we talked about the costs associated with the solar array, when we talked about this from more of a conceptual standpoint compared to where we are now, we said somewhere around $250,000 total. Okay, so if you take the cost of the structural steel and you take the cost of the electrical work necessary to prepare for the panel installation, we're probably somewhere around $160 or $160,000. So that would leave us approximately $90,000 left in our budget to get the actual arrays and the mounting and get those hooked up. I think that we're in pretty good shape, is what I'm trying to say.
Good. Mike?
And timing-wise, as long as we're going ahead with the electric, how late can we wait, Jason? Because obviously you want the latest and greatest technology. How late can we wait to buy? Not disapprove necessarily, but to buy. So Sam's getting us that newest one out there.
Well, it seems to always be evolving. I don't know, Tyler, if you want to weigh in on that one. I think we want to get that utility into our place before the end of this year. I'm not sure how much is going to change, you know, in the next 4 months, but I think we want to get that done and ordered through the contractors here by the end of this year, by the end of 2018.
Does that help our lead certification too?
Yes. The ordering wise, I can always work with Gilbane. I mean, each fiscal year that goes by, the tariff on solar goes down. It's pretty marginal. I don't know how much of an effect it would have, or if it would actually be more of an inefficiency and cost more to wait to order it. So that really I'll leave in Gilbane's court on that one.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions? Chuck?
So in the current structure that we're going up with, we did not buy the panels and that part of it and just the steel structure. Where are we at? And let's say we waited 5-10 years because technology evolves. I think you had mentioned that. I was thinking that very thing. I mean, if our payback is anywhere between 8 and 25 years, technology is going to evolve. Batteries and storage of electricity is going to get so much better. It's already heading in that direction. So are we talking $90,000 now, and that is kind of like what our current price is, and we would just be at the pricing at that point, and we can just take 90,000 and drop on the panels and plug things in, or where are we at with the structure of this?
That's what I was alluding to. We spent approximately, in round terms, $40,000 on the structural steel modifications to carry the additional weight. And we're going to present a change order for all of the electrical conduit and all of the wiring and everything that has to equip that solar array once those panels are installed. So everything short of the panels and their mounting frames that physically go on the roof
It's already in the budget and
Right.
already.
So then,
Yes.
so just to back it up, the committee had given direction some time ago, and we felt that it was gonna cost up to $250,000 to get the building solar ready. Then, once we approved the final invoice, or the final change order for the electric, the way I understand it, is we're gonna have only used 160,000 of that, so we're gonna be 90,000 to the good if we wanted to use that money towards solar purchase or whatever. But just to keep the building solar ready, whether we do it today or 5 years from now, was approximately $90,000 less than we had anticipated.
Okay, and so then what would it cost to actually put that, to connect with the meter or no? We're forgetting about that.
Well,
I-
if I may, I can share my numbers with everyone, absolutely. And the numbers I have are what was given again in the estimations and provided by Gilbane, so they should be accurate to my knowledge. If anything's changed, we can adjust those. But to address your question, County Board Member Mayor, it will not be more financially fruitful to install later because the incentives in Illinois are really concentrated across the next 3 years, and they decline as time goes on, and those are a huge piece of what makes this happen. Yes, solar panels are always getting more efficient, inverters are always getting better, latest and greatest, smarter, talking to us more, but essentially I can say with confidence that I don't think there'll be anything so fundamental that happens in that time frame that would make it dramatically more economically attractive to hold off to install. I actually think it will be the sooner the better. Jason, would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think that, to come back and install them later after construction's done is a little bit tougher too. It's remobilization. I mean, to try to get it done with the rest of the construction is going to be beneficial. And the price of solar panels themselves has been fluctuating a little bit, but I don't think it's going to make a big enough impact to wait, especially if you're going to potentially lose some incentive dollars by waiting. I think probably better to just do it now.
The incentive is why everyone's jumping on the solar bandwagon. I mean, if you were to take all the incentives out of it, how many year payback would it be?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but it would be probably somewhere in the neighborhood of double plus.
Significant. So I mean, that's the real.
And we can always look into battery storage later. That is something that I'm keeping my eye on as it is a critical building, and if we can island off and have critical functions maintained. Prices of batteries, that is something that waiting a few years will definitely have an economic impact. They are definitely getting smaller and more cost efficient, so we're keeping that as an option.
But if we're using if it's only gonna take 7% of the whole building, we're gonna use everything that those panels
We don't
can
need the
give us
battery.
Right.
during the day. If we were producing
Right.
110%, then, but we're only using 7%.
There's other things you can do with batteries so they can be charged. You can
Charge them during the day.
Right.
during the day, right?
Understand.
And you could use them at other times. You can take from the grid and store in there. You can
Is anything we
power smoothing.
Reduce
There's a lot of different
we're
ways you
gonna
can use it
pump
to
that
make
to the
money.
grid,
But again, if we're gonna get 7% of the whole building, we'll use everything.
Does anybody else have any questions? All right, Jason.
I'm sorry, I had one more thing. I think last committee meeting, there was a question about the panels on the Sallyport roof and
Yes.
whether there would ever be an issue of shading on those panels if a building was built south. So we did a little bit of analysis on that, and I think you'd have to build a building that's over 55 to 60 feet tall before it starts to have any impact on those panels. And it's incremental. I mean, that would be impacting the first run of panels on the far south end of the Sallyport for 2 months of the year, and 2 months of the year, November through January, which historically are more cloudy months anyway. So I think you'd have to build a building pretty tall before it has any real impact. So if that helps you to answer the question about whether it makes sense to put the panels in the center.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Next is the discussion of the animal control facility in the EMA building. How are you doing?
What we thought we'd do is kind of just lay out a kind of an overview schedule of what's going on, project for everybody. So the animal control design was completed previously. Oh yeah, here we go. Animal control design was previously completed. EMA is expected this Friday to be finished up. So the design be wrapped up, and it'll be sliding into the Harbor's court. We're looking at sending out for bid on the 12th of September. So really quick, to wrap up the scopes, they've already had some pre-looked at some of this stuff. And then we'll have bid openings. So before that, sorry, we're going to do a combo outreach on 18th September. So not only the animal control and the EMA, but also the bid package for the health department, which we're going to bring. So we're going to use some synergies of two construction managers reaching out to folks and have a combo for both projects on that day. 18th September. The bids for the animal control EMA would be then
Hold on 1 second, Bill. Where's that going to be, the outreach?
So here, held at 3 p.m. here.
3 p.m. here at
3:30 at
Yeah,
in the main building.
I think we need to do one more than one. Yeah, do that one first and then we'll.
Okay. Then the bids would be back here October 11th at 1 p.m. We'd open up the bids. And then final date for everybody would be, we're going to do a special capital committee on the 30th so that we're actually doing a combo, both these two buildings plus the health department's bid package #1 on October 30th.
Right, and if you guys recall, we took the capital committee down to one meeting, but we did say by the end of the year we were going to need a special meeting or two just to get through all the bid packages, and then we could resume back to one. So we also, with that, we also have no meeting on the 6th, which is election day, and we're going to push that meeting to the following week, so it's the 13th, November 13th. So we got October 30th is the special bid meeting, bid package meeting, and then November 13th will be our capital. 9:30. Sorry.
No, when we brief the health department, we have some other dates to consider it into November and December and January, and we'll put those out for you as well. That project.
Jim, did you have something?
Yeah, exactly. So the bid packages for the health department will be in October, did you say? No?
So health departments, yeah, so we're doing the outreach on the 18th as well.
Right.
We'll send out, the design is finishing up on the 24th, but the opening will be on October 16th.
October 16th. And of course, Lee Pardo will then put the bid packages together. How about the animal control and EMA?
Theirs is the 11th.
So the bid packages?
Bid packages.
Would be
October 11th.
October 11th.
So
So
here's
you're
the
going to have
first.
the bid packages by the end of the month? Yes, basically, or beginning of October. I was wondering when the bid packages are going to be ready
For the street.
for
For
the street.
12th September.
12th of September.
Sorry. So in October, we have two key dates, the 11th and the 16th, and then they both come in together on the 30th for your special.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a lot.
No, there's a lot going on. But the timing of it, that's what exactly what we wanted. We wanted these bid packages on the street to try to get a favorable award bid, bid amounts by the end of the year.
And so that's our biggest push. I think we're just wrapping up final tweaks for any of the designs by the end of Friday.
Yeah.
Jump in.
Yeah, we submitted both animal control and EMA for permit previously, so now what we're doing is just tying up some loose ends, making sure it's bid ready. We've actually gotten permit review comments back on animal control, nothing too major, minor stuff we're coordinating. And then I think EMA's only been in maybe for about a week or so. So probably be getting review comments shortly on that as well. So the idea is that we'll get all that cleaned up as well and kind of dovetail that in with the bid process.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the update from the Health Department. Team Kluber. Leopardo. An additional chair for Steve.
Good morning. We'll do a quick review of where we are, status update on the design side. We're currently in design development for the project with a scheduled September 17th date to deliver the design development drawings to Leopardo for final budget review and pricing. We have completed all of our internal meetings with the health department users. So that is complete. Those meetings entailed identifying, laying out final locations for casework equipment, furniture orientations, etc. for the project. So that is now all have been completed. Coming up on September 11th at 10 o'clock, we have tentatively scheduled a meeting with the City of Joliet to review the project. Primarily site building utility conversations at that point in time with HR Green and Leopardo in attendance, as well as select folks from the county. The purpose of that meeting is really twofold. Bring them up to speed. They have seen the previous schematic design package, give them an update on the project, let them know what our schedule and expectations are of them. And then also review the final connectivity of those utility systems that will be part of the bid package 1, so they're on the same page with us. We did find out recently the City of Joliet has adopted a new building code that will be in effect as of September 8th. So all projects being done in the City of Joliet will now be under the 2015 IBC code. We found that out early enough to make a few minor modifications to our drawings. So our drawings will be going out under that new code. Bid package scheduling, and Nicole hit more of this, but these are the deliverable dates by which Kluber must get the information to Leopardo. We are on track for September 24th to turn over the bid package 1 drawings. Bid package 1 is essentially site development, building pad, some minor site demolition, and site utility package will be a part of that package.
Hold on one second.
Yes.
Just to confirm, the permits have already been filed with Joliet with the animal facility, animal control, and EPA or EMA. Oh, that's you.
It's county, Will County.
It's unincorporated.
Okay. Thank you.
And then we're going to turn around October 22nd. We deliver bid package 2, which for the building is the core and shell, exterior envelope, roofing, so on and so forth for the project. We're also at that time going to include the elevator as part of that package. And then the last date is November 19th for bid package 3, which is essentially the finish out of the space, all mechanical, plumbing, electrical, walls, doors, you name it, that are on the inside of the building will be issued again to Leopardo. We've had a successful preliminary meeting with ComEd on grant opportunities. That was held on August 9th. We have identified a number of items in the building that will qualify for grant money. So that's fantastic news, and we will be turning over our design development drawings to them for their review, again, right at September 17th after we turn them over to Leopardo. They will then review those for making sure that what we're specifying and the way we're detailing things will meet their requirements for those grants.